Hi, this is Kent Adams, co-host of Business Talks. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of friends, Lisa and Alan Gwaltney of Window World. I've known Lisa and Alan for a number of years and know them to be honest and caring folks. They take pride in their windows, sliding doors, and blinds. So when it comes to your home, call them direct at 509-456-5880. That's Window World of Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. And if you tell them Kent sent me, they'll give you 5% off a 5-window installation. Call them today at 456-5880.
Welcome to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Online, your home for broad and podcasts about everything startup and entrepreneurship related in the Spokane region. We're your hosts, Steve Traben and Ryan Arnold. And on Startup Spokane, we want to provide you with our region's story of entrepreneurship, how we are creating an ecosystem that's attractive not only to our native entrepreneurs, but also to people who are looking for that place to launch their business next, and how we are making Spokane attractive to them. We want to educate you about the resources that exist in our region's ecosystem, ways to plug in and connect, and ways you can thrive if you're an entrepreneur or small business in our region. We are excited today. Tyler Lafferty is here joining us, taking time out of his very busy schedule. And, Tyler, welcome, first of all.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
We're excited to have you here. When I answer the question, what is a serial entrepreneur, you're the vision that I have.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, Tyler has launched 5 successful businesses in Spokane along with his partner, Nick Murdo. And you want to definitely listen in on this broadcast because Taylor's going to have a lot to offer in the way of advice if you're an entrepreneur or small business owner. So, Tyler, let's get started. Why don't we have you spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about your background, about yourself, and how you got into all of these businesses and kind of the story behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. I'm born and bred in Spokane. I love Spokane, and went away to the University of Washington for college, and then came back right after college. And I worked for some large companies here. I worked for Keytronic, I worked for Telect. I learned a lot of things there. Good companies doing good things, and that was really fun. But like any entrepreneur will say, there's this voice in the back of your head that's like, hey, you could do this, or you could be the boss, or, I always knew that I would either want to be either the CEO of somebody else's company someday or definitely run my own. So for me, it was really about when will that happen? And it was kind of just watching things line up. And I was lucky enough to get into the kind of the whole internet craze, if you will, in the mid-'90s when it was just getting going. And so for me, that was really, really good. I kind of built a base, not from a design or development standpoint, but really from the sales and marketing side and the business side. And so I worked for one of the first web development companies in Seattle when I was over there going to school. That was really good for me. And then when I came back to Spokane, I helped develop the websites at Keytronic. And then at Telect, I helped run an e-commerce store for them. And this was the late 90s. We were trying to sell fiber optic cables to, telecom install engineers. And it was a little early, which was what I love about Wayne Williams. He's always way out there trying to do cool stuff. And but we got to do some really innovative online advertising at the time. We really started to figure out how to work with our customers through extranets and building strong customer relationships, using the internet. So I was really, really fortunate to get into some really good opportunities that ultimately kind of led to me where I am today. Along the way, Nick and I actually met professionally and became friends, and we joked that he and I would get together about once every 6 months and talk about, we should do this business or start that business. And, again, that voice in the back of our head just kind of telling us both what was going on. Well, Nick went to work for a local advertising agency called White Runkle, and he started their web development department there. So this is late 90s, and he really grew it. He did an amazing job of growing that, and he and I stayed friends. I was doing some other stuff, and I was like, I got to get back. I'd kind of strayed a little bit away. I'd gotten into some sales stuff, that was the one thing that my resume didn't have was, some heavy sales. I thought that'd be good. So I got some sales experience, but it wasn't where my heart was. I had to get back into the web, online marketing, all of that. So Nick brought me on at White Runkle, and I was lucky enough to work with him there and his team. And then we became peers, and we were both on the executive team at White Runkle, which was great. But ultimately, Nick and I were passionate about only doing interactive. White Runkle was a full-service ad agency, TV, print, radio, interactive, and Nick and I really were just passionate about interactive. And so again, that voice is saying, you could do it, start your own thing. And I had done some small startups along the way. I had owned a small web development company with a partner, and a guy named Dan Haley. He was fantastic. And he and I did a bunch of projects together, and that was great, but it was on a really small scale. But Nick and I had a vision for ultimately what we wanted to create. And White & Runkle had done a good job of servicing national clients based out of Spokane. So we really appreciate what Jack and Bob did for us to understand, hey, you can do that and you can make it happen. And so when we wanted to start our own agency, we ended up leaving and we had nothing. We had no clients, no nothing. I remember we joked that we were friends with Magner Sanborn and those guys. And I remember sitting in their conference room, twiddling our thumbs, going, "Okay, now what?" We wrote the business plan and all this kind of stuff, but we got to make this happen. And so it was real. And we were lucky to, we were able to use some of our relationships and get some good clientele and start growing the business, slowly and organically. And then from there, it just kind of, it kind of spiraled. And we were really, really lucky to kind of move in the right direction and make some good decisions. People always ask me, "Oh gosh, how did you foresee this being kind of what you've built?" 7.2, one of our web development companies, has, close to 50 people and, a lot of large national clients. And the question or the answer is yes, and not in an egotistical way, but we truly set a vision for what we wanted to do, and we kind of had it out there okay, we know what we want to build, we know we can service large national clients. Let's find a way to make this happen. And so, we have had some really good success, and we've been really lucky along the way. And I want to just say that I don't want to think that we're two brilliant businessmen here that we've got it all figured out. We've had some great success along the way that we were really lucky. Some good doors got opened for us, and we're really lucky, grateful for that.
So you started 7.2, and then along the way you created 14.4. And a lot of people would say, "Hey, why didn't you just have one company kind of doing the same thing?" But you guys are really deliberate about that separate company. Talk a little bit about what brought that on.
Yeah, so about I think it was about 3 years in, about 2.5 that we kind of had the idea for it. But we were doing work. Most of 7.2's work was direct. We were working directly and building websites, building apps, building that kind of stuff for large tech and entertainment companies. And we were working with the marketing managers within those companies. So along the way, we had friends at advertising agencies, and we thought, hey, we could probably work with them and be another source of revenue. Well, when we got in and started doing that work, we recognized it was a little bit different. How you approached it, how you approached working with someone else's creative team. We had our own creative and development team on staff, but they had their own creative team at the agency, at the advertising agency, and they kind of knew how they wanted to do it. And that process was very different. Our team really wanted to run with it, but we said, no, we've got to respect what what they want. We can kind of add value and do that. And so we decided, Nick and I thought, purely from a diversification standpoint, that it is a different business. We should kind of carve this out and start a whole new business. And purely, like I said, for our own sake, just pure diversification of keeping the business separate, two separate P&Ls. Why not start two companies that way? And again, we're not like Superman, so we hired a guy to be the president, Jeff Oswald, absolutely amazing man. He's grown and built that company, and Nick and I are more like board of directors. We kind of help him set vision and talk. We're a sounding board for operational issues and that kind of stuff. But he just does amazing work and has built a really amazing team there. So 14.4 now has about 27 people. They do work with advertising agencies all over the country, and then really. What I tell people is from day one when we would hire people and we'd say, hey, listen, your job is to partner with advertising agencies and their design teams. They totally understood. And it was just a shift in mindset. Like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And 14.4 adds great value. Sometimes it's just development. Sometimes they're just building the back end stuff. But oftentimes, once an agency understands what they can really bring to the table, they're coming in with design and concepts and things like that. So they've done some great work.
It's really cool, Tyler. 7.2 and 14.4, I think, are great success stories on their own, but you've got a few other irons in the fire as well. So you've got, which is really cool. It's not only what you do in the digital world, but you're doing things in small business around the Spokane community as well. So share with us a little bit about Method Juice Bar and then the Union.
Sure. So, I went to Nick probably 5 years ago. And I said, we've been doing this about 11 years together, and I went to him about 5 years ago and said, hey, I think there's more we could be doing. And we thought of a lot of different ideas. We thought about building a mobile development company. We thought about starting a whole nother ad agency. We've thought of all sorts of things. But then we thought, there is value in kind of diversifying and doing some other things. And Nick and I have always believed, do what you're passionate about. And that's extremely, extremely important. I think entrepreneurs... sometimes they try to catch the next fad, and I'm going to figure this out. But if you're not really passionate about that, you're not going to get up in the morning, excited to do your thing. You're not going to work those late hours to make it happen if you're not ultimately super passionate about it. Most people then are driven by money, which is, I'm not saying it's horrible, but it can be a little bit hollow. So Nick and I kind of looked at that and said, well, what are we passionate about? We're kind of healthy, fit guys. We really care about that kind of stuff. And the one thing we noticed about that Spokane didn't have was downtown was a really good juice bar. And so we were going to juice bars all over the country when we were traveling. We thought, that's something that we want to bring to Spokane. We thought that'd be really good. So two dudes had no experience in the restaurant industry. We're like, hey, let's figure this one out. And so we built it from the ground up. The menu, we sat and we had been, juicing and making smoothies on our own. So we had some of our own recipes, but we tweaked a lot of those. And then we hired a manager. Her name was Amy, and she was really fantastic and instrumental in really helping us kind of be the project manager to grow that. We, again, no restaurant experience, so we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew what we liked. And so Nick has a beautiful eye for interior design and really built a fantastic space. So if you ever get a chance to go in there, it's just really beautiful. It's right across the street from the SDA Plaza, right next to Umpqua Bank on Riverside. And it's really beautiful inside. So we wanted to build an experience. We wanted a beautiful experience that you wanted to be at. And it was really fun. And we had long-term, visions of could this be franchisable or that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think, there certainly is some things there. You have to ask yourself how much energy you want to put towards all of that. And, there's so much legal ramifications of going forward with doing a franchise model. But it's been fun. It's been absolutely fun. And then, again, under kind of the whole health and fitness thing, Nick comes to me. Nick's a great idea guy. He's always got a ton of good ideas. I'm more of the, okay, let's figure this out, operational, the numbers and all of that. And he says, I think we should open a yoga studio. And I'm like, well, and he's really passionate about yoga. He had been practicing a lot. He'd been learning how to become a teacher. And I said, I think I'm going to try to figure this out a little bit, but I don't know, man. And so he knew that I like to cycle. So I love to bike, and he came to me and said, what about a yoga and, spins, indoor cycling?
He knew how to hook you in, right?
Yeah. Well, he knew that, okay, yeah, we got to do it. So sure enough, I'm like, I like that concept. I think so we have two studios. It's, under one roof, but we have a yoga room and we have a spin room. And we absolutely love it. It's such a great community and a great vibe. We wanted to build something that would, again, make Spokane better, get people fit, get people excited about, exercise. And it's a fun environment. So again, I love being a part of those businesses. One of the things that Nick and I have always believed from a philosophy standpoint is build a company you'd want to work for. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what's helped us. And I think for any entrepreneur, that's something to think about, because a lot of ideas can be quickly said, oh, is this is good for the bottom line, but is it really good for the business? And I think small businesses, they tend to do sometimes too much what's good for the bottom line. And don't get me wrong, you got to keep the lights on, and that's important. But oftentimes it's important just to think about, you might want to implement some things into your company that might not always be best for the bottom line, but are really good for the company, and ultimately create a company that you'd want to work for. That's how you retain good employees. And culture is a whole nother large subject that we get into at some other time, but that's a big deal as well, is how do you build the right culture to get people excited about coming to work, loving their jobs, loving their coworkers, and just to be able to do good work.
Well, we're only about 13 minutes into this program, and we've already got a lot of advice coming from Tyler Lafferty. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Radio Online.
In touch, online all the time. SpokaneTalksOnline.com.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
The economy is getting stronger, banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Spokane Talks Online, and we're here today talking with Tyler Lafferty. We've just been going over all the different companies that Tyler's been involved with for the last couple of years, and I had a question because, you're involved with so many companies, you've got so many irons in the fire right now, but how do you maintain a work-life balance with all of that? And I almost, from an outside perspective, find it interesting that, a lot of us would think, to maintain a work-life balance, you'd go to the gym, you'd go to the juice bar, and you've opened those companies within your own life. So is that, in some ways, a roundabout to keep that work-life balance and be an entrepreneur at the same time?
Sure, partly. My wife jokes that, we started Method, the juice bar, as a place that, where after I work out, somewhere I'd want to go eat, and,
Right.
which is true. It's a great question, Ryan. I think, and work-life balance is extremely important to Nick and I. We truly believe that you can't overwork people and expect them to love coming to work the next day. It's crazy. And so even for myself, I think it's important that I, make sure I get enough personal time with workouts and things like that, that I get enough personal time with my family. And I think people look at this and think, oh my gosh, you must, work, 14 hours a day. And that's not true at all. What I do and what Nick does, what we really do well, is put the right people in the right places to do good work. And so, we have a managing director at 7-2. At 14-4, we have the president, Jeff, who runs that. At the Union and Method, the juice bar, we have managers, and we and ultimately we like to work with those people, mentor those people, set them up to do their very best work. We try to set a large vision for what we want to do and standards and things like that, and we have regular meetings and help them carry that out. And Nick and I have always believed, and I think it certainly comes from the two of us, in the partnership model, in the idea that having two people to balance that load can really help. And that comes down to just how much work you have to do, but also comes down to solving problems. When we talk it out all the time, there's so much value, and I think in an entrepreneur having a good, strong partner that you believe in, that you trust, that you respect. And Nick and I are 50-50 partners in everything we do, and so we load balance quite a bit. And so, don't get me wrong, I love to spend my evenings with my family and weekends, and then get plenty of time for myself to probably get out on the bike or run or whatever.
So a lot of the entrepreneurs that I talk to, they're kind of in that growing phase where they're looking for a partner, or they're looking for a manager or a great employee. Do you have any advice how to find good people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think interviewing a potential partner or something like that, you definitely have to have the utmost respect for that person. And it can't be something where you look at a person's resume or talk with them and think, well, they have the skills to do this. But is there an actual cultural fit for the two of you? Or is there, do you have the same beliefs? Are you going to, and then that doesn't mean that you have to be totally think the same way on everything. Nick and I, people joke about Nick and I that we're very yin and yang. We bring different things to the table. But I think what works for the two of us, like I said, is that I respect him immensely, and I think he does me as well. And the idea, if we kicking something around, and we're both really kind of bullheaded too, and like want what we want. But if he has a better idea, I'm okay with saying, hey, you know what? That you're right. That we should go that route. And I think any entrepreneur has to be rational enough to recognize that and to really know, okay, what's better for the customer? What's better, that way? It's not always your way. So I think doing a lot of networking events and meeting people, and if it's somebody who you think has your work ethic, who understands what you're trying to create, and you truly, again, I use that word respect, that's gonna be extremely important for them.
That's great, Tyler. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've faced along your journey. I think there's always opportunities for people to learn from adversity, right? So, a lot of times we talk, if you had one thing you could do over, or take a mulligan on, if you want to use a golf analogy, what are some of the challenges that you've had in your journey, and how did you overcome them?
I'd say I'll give you two answers. One, I think, would be I'll start way back and say ultimately I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I got a political science degree, and I wanted to actually go into the FBI. I wanted to be an investigator in the FBI, and so I don't say I'd have the background to do what I do. I've learned a lot along the way, and I had to stumble a bit because I didn't know finances as well, or any sort of management practices, and I had to read a lot of books. And so I think one of my do-overs is I probably would have gotten a business degree, and not to say that it's the end-all be-all by any stretch, but it would have, I think, helped me a little bit farther along. And the other one, what I would say is just not jumping too fast into something. I think you really have to, sometimes Nick and I, there's a few ideas we didn't talk about actually today of businesses we've created. We've talked about some of the successful ones, but we've also had ones that we didn't, we kind of underestimated what it would take to get into the market. And you really have to put the research in. I think maybe we had a little too much ego to think, oh, we can do this, no problem, we can make that happen. We've done all these other things. Mm-hmm. And even just because you've had some successful businesses doesn't mean you have everything to put it, to make something happen. And it bruises your ego a bit and it hurts. But you really have to understand the market you're trying to get into and what you're trying to do. So I think, if I had to do over one of our businesses called Passenger Pets, which we, haven't seen the success that we wanted to, it's these window clings that go into cars. We always wanted to have a product. Nick and I believed that would be fun to have a product. And product development was really fun, actually building the Passenger Pets and going through all that. And we did what we believed to be the right marketing, but I don't think we put nearly the energy. We underestimated what we needed to do from a marketing standpoint and the energy to go to make that successful. Yeah. So we're not underestimating what it's going to take to get something done, I would say, is extremely important.
No, I think that's good. I mean, the whole reality check. I mean, you're not batting 1,000. You're only talking about the successes of 5 businesses that you've had thus far, but it doesn't sound like you've given up on Passenger Pets. It's sort of on the shelf for
Absolutely.
now.
Well, and we even have some other business ideas that we're working on right now, some other apps and things like that. And so, again, but understanding the kind of the industry you're going into, what's it going to take to make this thing successful, and that's incredibly important.
Yeah. So I'd like to just have you spend a couple more minutes on education, because you talked about that as maybe a possible do-over. And, there's so much entrepreneur education that's available, especially in our region with 5 universities and community colleges. We're seeing it at the high school level. Can you talk just a little bit about the role of education in entrepreneurship? How important do you really think it is?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important in the sense that it starts to get you that experience that you need to start figuring out what works and what doesn't. And getting in early and understanding, getting your hands into finances, understanding pro forma financials and maybe get some stuff there, into product development, into validating your ideas. And there's some really fantastic things that are going on within, like you mentioned, Steve, in our, at the colleges, what Spokane Falls Community College is doing with their program. Remind me the name of that?
The Avista Center for Entrepreneurship.
That's right. Yeah. And I really love what they're doing. And, all of these programs that actually give people a chance to get in there and say, hey, let's, really help you validate your idea. So many people, and I'll put myself in this role, like I said earlier, really believe that, I've got this figured out. Or they're really, really head down and go, I have the best product ever. And they really know, but the truth is there a market for that? And sometimes we forget to validate and go out and actually define. And a lot of the business books today, even, there's a whole movement of get away from the business plan and actually just go out and validate your product, create an MVP, your most viable product, and get out there and make it happen. And so I think it's, I think these types of educations, especially at an earlier age, and you're seeing the high schools do it at River Point Academy, and they have a whole entrepreneurship, track there. They're getting kids to understand what it takes to truly be an entrepreneur and a business person. Yeah. And that's incredible. And that's good. Whether you ultimately become an entrepreneur or not, you're going to be a better employee having understand, the principles that it takes to be, a good entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And, education is coming in so many different forms in Spokane. We've got the formal education, but then we've got things like Startup Weekend Spokane that is also education of a different sort. So,
yeah, I would say there's a lot of events here to get plugged into. One other question I had for you, Tyler, is I know from our personal conversations, real quickly, you're involved in a lot of stuff outside of your own businesses. You're a mentor, you're an advisor, you're on boards. It's that pay it forward model here in Spokane that I think really makes Spokane a special place. But does that help you in your entrepreneurship and what you do? Is that something that all works together?
Absolutely. I mentor a young guy right now. His name's Tim Aton. He has a company called Resume Redesign. He's working on some other things. And I learn stuff talking with him all the time. Things he's doing that I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that, or we should even consider doing that in our business. And I love that. So the idea of giving back isn't that full benevolent idea. It's also, there's a lot of things you can get from it. And I think that's so important. That's why, growing our mentor network and getting more people involved in that is critically important.
All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time today. So thank you, Tyler, for joining me and Steve today on Startup Spokane and Spokane Talks Online. Spokane Talks Online, it's your home for resources for Spokane's startup ecosystem. And you can access a lot of this information about the things we've talked about today and other things like the mentorship network we've mentioned before, resources, and how to get connected in the Spokane community on startupspokane.com, our website. So join us in the future for podcasts as we talk to local experts and entrepreneurs in the region and learn about all the resources that are here in the Spokane region. So we appreciate you being with us today. Thank you very much.
In touch, online all the time. SpokaneTalksOnline.com.
Affordable health coverage is now available in Washington State. Better Health Together is a nonprofit organization offering free one-on-one assistance to help you explore your options, understand discounts and tax credits, and apply for coverage. We have 250 trained professionals throughout Eastern Washington ready to help you apply for coverage. To learn more about this free service and your insurance options, call Better Health Together at 509-321-7500, 509-321-7500.